My name is Madeline. I am 23 years old. I have been working in sex work for 2 years now. I started with a premium Snapchat and then I went over to OnlyFans. May will be my first official year, and I'm here to talk about that with everyone.
Nice. So, okay, I guess how did you really start to get into sex work?
I kind of always knew it was something I wanted to do, even when I was younger. I would always like view these cam models, and probably when I was around 13 is when I started seeing that, 12 or 13. I remember being on my Nintendo DS, my DSi, and like seeing something about sex on there and being like, wait a minute, that's how sex works? And like looking it up. So from that point on, it kind of catapulted me into the world of sex industry, and just I think early on what differentiated it from just sex work is just viewing these women as like an art form, and that I always thought they were very pretty, and like all, even as the years have gone on, the standard of beauty has changed a lot, but even back then I was able to realize like this is something more than just like having sex with someone. This is like an art form. This is how people communicate with one another. This is a lot more than just what people view it as, and that always fascinated me. So when I grew up, I always just thought, no, I can never do it. You know, everyone's gonna like judge me. Everyone's gonna know. My mom will literally kill me. And I'm still working on balancing those two aspects, but I always knew that it was something I could potentially do until I got older and I realized, okay, this is something you can do. So
Yeah, did you say that you found out what sex was like later in the game? Is that what you? Cause,
in like fifth grade, I think was when I like put it together, and I'm like, oh, like that's what happens. But from then on, probably around like 13, that's when I was like realized that I myself was a very sexual being, and that's when I discovered like, oh, this is something that I would like to do one day, or like even just keep tabs on. It wasn't like I was in like sex work Twitter or like on Instagram. Like I wasn't in the community. It was just something that I was watching and like knew that I had an interest in when I was older. You know, I didn't want to be like 17 jailbait, like make anyone go to jail. But so it started from early on. It just progressed over time.
So you never had sort of a negative perspective
No.
on sex workers?
Even though I knew that my family would not, and they still are kind of shifty about it, I always knew, like, I don't care. I'm going to do whatever I want, whatever makes me happy. So if that's what makes me happy and I enjoy it, then yeah, I'm going to do it. So it's not hurting anyone. So, and especially with the new wave, I think, of sex workers, girls on OnlyFans, where you're 100% in control. You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever makes you comfortable. Because that, coming from where the porn industry used to be, that's like a big difference, big step. And even though OnlyFans still has a little bit to do with your money, they're not controlling anything that you're making. You're fully in control. And that's, I think, where like the artistic side of it comes out, because you can make whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. So that's what really draws me into it, I think. But anyway, off on my tangent.
No, that's how you define it then, like sex work, or do you consider, because you also use the word art?
I say sex work because a lot of people do, but I know that other girls who do say sex work also, myself included, would consider it like an art form as well. So, especially girls who are like me, similar size on OnlyFans, I feel that they view it more as like an art form than a job. And a lot of other girls also have a second job, which I did for a long time. So it's kind of starts as a hobby, I feel like, for a lot of people, and then grows into something else if that's what you're looking for. So,
how did you know when it was time to leave your other job?
That, I think it was just, I needed like a safety net, because for the past 2 years I had been making good money, but I was still in school, so I still needed kind of like a cover of where are you getting this money from, like how are you living. So I kept a part-time job at a bank, and that could have done something for my career. I was kind of waiting to see where it went, and then when I realized that that was not going to happen, that they couldn't offer me the position I wanted, that's when I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to do this full time because I love it, it's fun. Like all my like closest people in my life know about it and accept it, so it's like, why not do it, you know? Good money. So
yeah, cool. So how is there any sort of way that it makes you feel, sort of coming from a family that might view sex work as something that's very like negative, or you know, you made it seem like your family wouldn't be super accepting? How does that interfere?
When I started, I was like really, really scared of people finding out. Not people, I should say, just specifically like my family, because I knew that it wasn't something they would like. And even though it's not something that they like, I still understand, like, you're entitled to your own opinion. Like, you don't have to like it. You just have to live with me doing it, I guess I've come to terms with. So even if you're not in my ring every single day of the week and, like, cheering me on, just to know that, like, you support it at least and you're not, like, talking behind my back about it or, having those types of thoughts about it, that's all that I can ask for, really. So, and it's not something I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I know when someone says, like, oh, why are you doing that, or you shouldn't do it, I know they're more so worried about my future than who I am as a person. So, like, if my mom, like, she is not aware of, like, she knows a little bit, but not, like, the specifics. She just knows I do stuff online, which that's a good way that I like to kind of tell people, because that, like, eases them into it, and not, like, oh, I show my pussy online, or anything like that. So, when we were, like, looking for apartments, I had this big dilemma of what the hell I was going to put on there, because I couldn't just be like, yeah, I make XYZ amount of money, but not tell them where it came from. They're obviously going to want to know. So I literally had to take screenshots of OnlyFans and, like, send it to them and be like, I know this is crazy, but this is what I do. And, like, here's my earnings, like, as proof. Like, I can pay to live here. So it was kind of crazy going through that. But surprisingly, they didn't care at all. So that gave me a lot of confidence. I'm like, okay, they don't care. Whatever, they just want to make sure I paid. So that kind of gave me a big confidence booster too. Like, okay, this is something I could do and it's sustainable.
Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting. Like how sort of you had the idea that, like, oh, they're gonna think that this isn't. Well, I mean, you didn't say this, but, like, not a real job.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, totally. Everyone says that. I get that all the time online. Go get a real job. And it'd be funny because I would be working a side job. I'd literally be working my part-time job and this job, which is a lot more work than people think it is. And I'd be like, honey, I got 2 jobs. Like, I'm out here on the grind and it's fun, but it's just annoying when people don't recognize, I think. But that's just the burden of art, I guess, because people don't realize that art is a job. It is a job, and even if you don't pertain it as a job or perceive it as a job, it still is one that you can be very successful in and happy in, even regardless of whether or not you're making a lot of money. So I think trying to get that across to people is hard, and it's still a struggle, and a lot of people don't understand it, but
I think it's important.
Yeah.
Definitely, like, I think that a lot of people have, like, a very old perspective of what a job means, like, going to school,
a typical, like, 9 to 5,
getting, becoming a doctor, like a lawyer,
whatever. Breaking down that barrier has been hard, but I'm glad to do it, and I don't care how many times I have to repeat myself. Like, I've repeated myself so many times, and I think it confuses people also why I will answer people on Instagram and not just ignore them. But it's like, okay, if I can say something even if you don't agree with it, and, like, get it in your mind, and, like, present that idea to you, and then maybe 10 years down the line you're like, oh, you know what, maybe so and so was right, or, like, you change your way of thinking just because I said one thing to you, even if you're cussing at me and, like, cussing up a storm or whatever. As long as I said something and kind of, like, made my statement and said, this is how it is, this is how I perceive it, maybe you will one day too. Like, that's the main reason why I answer people, and I think it confuses them.
So what do you mean respond to people on Instagram? Do people, like...
So, yeah, I get a lot of Instagram DMs. Most of them are good. Some of them are bad, though. I've highlighted some on it before, just for, like, funny, like, shits and giggles. But, yeah, definitely a lot of people don't understand it. And when someone sends me a nasty message, the thing that I think of first is, okay, they obviously don't understand what I'm doing, and they're angry because they don't understand what they're doing. Or what I'm doing, I should say. So I think it's my job to say, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it. If you don't like it, that's cool. You can cuss at me all you want. But
because then it's you said something, like, you
tried, and then I'm done. Yeah, and a lot of time Instagram has this great feature called restricting people, so I restrict people all the time. But I typically do always answer, and even just, like, the disrespect too. I know a lot of people will say, like I mentioned earlier, just don't talk about it, don't mention them at all. But I'm not going to sit here and let people disrespect me. I'm going to say my piece, move on. If we agree to disagree, cool, but I'm still going to get my word in. I feel like a lot of girls think that they have to be nice to everybody and cater to these people, and it's men and women. I won't say it's just men. But I don't agree with that. Like, I'm gonna put my foot down and be like, I don't agree with what you're saying. You don't get to talk to me that way. Like, goodbye. All access from me is denied. I'm gonna block you. You're never gonna see me again. You lost your chance. But I'm still gonna say something.
Okay, so you brought up like the idea that guys and girls both say comments to you. Does it feel though like more men are the ones who approach you
Yeah,
with a
it
negative?
definitely is. I think a lot of females maybe don't agree with it, but they are very good at not saying that, which I respect and appreciate, so that I don't have 100 people coming at me from all different ways. But yeah, I do. But I think that's because of the relationship men have with porn. Definitely, it's very different from where the relationship women have with it, especially because I think women are the stars, the role in a lot of pornographic content. So I think that explains it, but a part of it. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of men. So I've kind of learned to what to keep an eye on when a man comes in my DMs, just to make sure that I'm being safe too.
Video's sake, but sort of like that first one, but a lot of people have qualms with porn because it's very performative on the woman's behalf, because it's made with men in
In
mind.
mind, yeah.
And so you're like, do you sort of align with that, or do you ever go into something thinking like, I'm going to enjoy this,
Um,
or is it
yeah.
for you?
So a lot of people ask me that specifically once someone buys my OnlyFans, they'll come and ask that. And it's normally men, but I have had females ask me before. I think it's different for everyone. My personal opinion is that thoroughly enjoy the work. I am a sexual being, so I enjoy seeing it, but I also enjoy performing it. I was made the, I guess, pact with myself that once that happens, once I stop enjoying it, that's when I would get out. I think a lot of girls say that. Um, it's kind of the same thing with like stripping and that type of sex work. They also say the same thing: enjoy it while you can, but you can't do it forever. B, you need to know when to get out. So when something is negatively affecting you, you need to get out. Um, but I don't view it as really performative on my end, but there is performative porn for sure. Like things that are on Pornhub or that like the larger porn stars are doing. That's performative. I don't necessarily see something wrong with it until a point where people need to know where the line of reality is. So I think you can still be performative because again, that's part of art and expressing your art and telling a story with it. As crazy as that sounds to some people, porn can have like a storyline and art and things of that nature. But I know that a lot of people might not view it that way. But it definitely. Sorry, I just lost what I was thinking of.
No.
Lost where I was going with it.
Have there been any times during your performances or you putting out your work, you said it's not really a performance, like you're enjoying it, but in a way it is still like a performance
Right, yeah,
art.
I would agree.
Have there been times that you don't enjoy it, but you're still doing it?
Yeah, definitely. There was one time where I was making content with someone else and I was just not that I was uncomfortable, but it just wasn't something that I wanted to make right then, and I feel like we were making it because of opportunity and we shouldn't have. Um so after that happened, I was like, okay, I'm never doing that again. Like that was a learning lesson for me. Like I need to be fully comfortable with what I'm doing. And that also has helped me to say when someone says, "Hey, I'll give you the X amount of money if you do this," and if it's something I'm not comfortable with, I'll tell them that, and then they'll ask, "Oh, you don't want this money?" Well, no, I don't want that money for that. And I think it flabbergasts people when I say, "No, I'm not going to take it," even if it's just $10. Like I'm not gonna take it if it's something that I don't want to do. So that I had to learn on early, especially starting OnlyFans, because that opens up the communication. I talk to a lot more people now that I have OnlyFans, just because that's part of like the bundle. Not every girl has to have that, but that's what I do, and it's easy.
What do you mean?
Like eat by easy, or by like talking to them, because you get direct messages on OnlyFans. Before, when I was doing like a Snapchat Premium, the way Snapchat is set up, it's not really like a messaging platform in that sense. I was using Snapchat for something it's not meant for. So when OnlyFans came along, I think that's why so many girls jumped shipped over to it, because yeah, it's not the best, but it does categorize it as if these are like fans or subscribers, so which is exactly what it is. So it just helps you speak to them easier because you can see it, and there's like priority tabs, like tabs with tips. So it helps you kind of look at who you're talking to, and then you can actually message every single person, and you can send them out like detailed messages, and choose and pick who you want to send stuff to, so it really helps you speak to people, I think, a lot better than like Snapchat would, or even Instagram, really. It helps a lot.
So I kind of want to talk about the sex worker community and industry sort of being female dominated. And
this is a good one.
So
I talk about this all the time with my guy friends.
So okay, yeah, let's just hear like
So I guess a lot of the times a guy will come up to me and be like, I would love to do this. I would love to do the same thing as you, but I don't think there's a market for it. And I'm like, you are wrong. There is definitely a market for it. I know I've made friends with people. I've seen them grow their accounts from like 50 people to like 13,000 people. Like crazy stuff. If you have the passion for it, I'm going to keep circling around to it. Passion, passion, passion. That's what I always tell everyone. If you have the passion for it and you have the know-how and you pay attention to what's going on around you, like social media wise, you will be fine. If you are posting things every day, every other day, even if it's just like something for fun. Like half the time I'll just take a picture in the bathroom and be like, that's cute, that was fun, I'm gonna post it to OnlyFans. Like it's about that rather than the making the money or viewing it as a job. So the market is definitely out there, and I think you'd be surprised what you'll find out there. So, but it's out there for men, definitely. And I always say, give it a try. Don't put your face in it if you don't want to or you don't feel comfortable with it, but it's out there and you can make money from it and live comfortably, definitely.
So is the market that's for men pertaining to other men, would you say? How are the viewers?
Okay. That's the weird part about it, and I'm still kind of trying to figure that out. It seems that there are, but that's where it gets interesting, I think, because of like gender neutrality and like the spectrum of like gender and how you present yourself and sexuality. That I think for men affects men's OnlyFans a lot, way more than it does women, because if a woman puts herself online, most men are going to come and look at it. I mean, men have types and women have types too. But I think for a woman, it's based on type and how you look and like your personality. I try to let my personality come through a lot because I think that's a big thing. But for men, it's more so about how, like, are you larger? Are you like skinny? What are you going to sell? Men will come up to me a lot and ask what demographic they're going to find, and I'd always tell them, as long as you have the passion and the like art form behind it, you'll be fine. But it really does depend on, for men, what you look like. If you're going to do like a twink, if you're going to do like a beefcake, if you're going to do like what your persona is going to be, and then men will find you off of that. But I do think it's, for men at least, it's very much like genre conforming, where women can kind of just put whatever they want out there and then people will find them. Men, you have to specifically say, okay, this is like the demographic I'm going for, because otherwise I think if you're all over the place, it doesn't work as well. But it still works. Like, definitely a lot of guys will just go out there and post whatever they want, and it works. But I think being a guy in the industry is almost even harder than being a girl in the industry, because you still get the shit from people. You still have to like change your perception of like sex just from when you were born and like how society raised you. You still have to like look at it a certain way also. So I've had guys ask me before, I don't know if I'm comfortable doing this, like, what would you do in this situation? I was like, never do something that you're not comfortable with. But that showed me, like, guys feel the same pressure too. It's the same for guys and girls. Like, if you're in sex work, you're in sex work, and I think that kind of helps bring everybody together. And that's how I've made a lot of friends too. They'll be like, well, how do you deal with like people saying this shit to you and like things like that? So I think that kind of helps everyone kind of come together and be like, well, this is what I do. You know, because you can't find a person off the street and be like, hey, do you do sex work? You know, it's kind of like a smaller community. So when I can find those people and talk to them about it and like give them advice, I think that's really cool too. And like, I would not have that without this.
So do you think that there is some sort of like natural pedestal for females entering the industry versus a guy? There's an advantage?
Yeah, definitely. Just because it's easier for girls, I think, to get into it. Not to say that it's easy at all, but I think a guy has to have like a plan to go into it, because most men are, I don't know statistically, so I don't know like the basis of straight or like bi, but I think most men looking for OnlyFans are straight white men. So to you have to find your niche if you're a guy. I guess would be to simplify it, definitely. So
cool, I just totally lost the question. I was gonna ask, I guess, Oh, I think that's gonna be just along the lines of like, do you think that personally speaks about like society or gender norms or what like our expectations that people have for people, right? Like, are men just more sexually wanting to engage, even if that means digitally?
Yeah, I think the pandemic also helped a lot. Like, if the pandemic had not happened, OnlyFans would not be where it's at all. Like, that completely changed the game for it. I would still probably be on Snapchat Premium, but the things that OnlyFans were doing for creators, and even though they're not the best, that definitely helped a lot. So, like, the idea of being trapped in your house and but still being able to have like this intimate relationship with someone online, and that you, even if you're paying for it, you can still kind of get that like one-on-one experience, especially when people were locked in their houses. I think that helped a lot of guys like get through that lonely time, even if maybe some men don't want to admit that, or like maybe perceive it that way. I definitely perceive it that way. Like, it definitely helped a lot of people for sure.
Cool. So, okay, circling back to something that you mentioned earlier, you said that this is not something that you see yourself doing for the rest of your life. You're pretty much in it until there comes a time when you're like, this is no longer satisfying. I want to move on. What is your sort of perspective on that? Like, what do you think? I mean, I know it's a hard question to ask somebody, what do they want to do next?
Yeah.
But how do you think this will get you to
the next step in my life? I have thought about it. I think it's a little too early, just because 2 years I feel like is pretty fresh into the game. I still have a lot of ideas, things I want to do, obviously. Maybe in another 2 years I might be telling a different story. But I think once you start with this and you get to the point where I am, where like you have stuff on all your social medias, like this is like a job for you, it's gonna be harder to hide. Would I love to like go into IT in the future if I wanted to? Sure, yeah. But is this gonna cause problems? Maybe. I would hope not. If it were me and I were hiring someone and I saw this, I wouldn't give two fucks. I would, hire them, because that's just my perspective on it. And I don't think it changes people or changes you or adds any shame to you if you do it, but a lot of people do, and I respect your opinion on that. If you don't want to hire me, that's fine. It's not somewhere I want to work.
You can do the work, you can do the work.
Right, exactly. So I think it will most likely be something in like digital media, but there is so much to do out there. Like, it is crazy, and like learning all this, and I've always wanted to do stuff with social media anyway. Like, I'm always fascinated by that. Like how brands and influencers and like just marketing in general, and like how they go about all that, especially online. Like, that is such a powerful tool, social media now. So it'll be something in there. I'm just not sure what, but I think a lot of people have to figure that out when they're doing this type of thing. Like, YouTubers or like big like porn actresses, like they have to figure out where they're gonna go after this. And most of the time they're fine, or like an athlete or like something like that, where you're in like a niche, such a small niche for like 5 years of your life, and then you're out of it. You kind of have to be like, well, what do I do now? But I'm not really worried about it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's really cool to see you compare the sex work industry with something like an athlete, where it's not so much as like you're comparing it in the fact that it's a niche, not in the fact that like for some reason sex workers have this super like generally negative perspective on it, just because of like historically whatever, where athletes don't. But at the end of the day, both people will come out of an industry where they're like, this is what I did for however long, like what can I do now using the foundation that I built.
Right, exactly, the tools that I have from that. So but I've learned a lot from doing this, like definitely 100%. So much, like just photography and like angles and like scheduling your content and like being your own boss, basically. Marketing. And marketing is fun. That's the most fun part, I think, of it for me. Is just like being able to be like, hi guys, like here's my like stupid little post for today, like check out XYZ, or like just keeping my personality in it. I think that's the biggest thing, is like just because I am on social media a lot and all day, I don't want it to lose the magic of like connecting with people and sharing funny things and laughing. Like, I don't want it to be dark and worried about what people think about me and stuff like that. I just want to do what I want to do, basically. And if someone else wants to watch it and pay for it, like, cool, like, awesome, I love that. But if not, like, that's fine too. I'm not your cup of tea. So A lot of people get like caught up in their own head about like, oh, do I look okay here? Like, I need to be taking pictures. I need to be like worrying about what people are saying. I need to be on like top of my social media game. And I think when you get wrapped up in that, that's when it takes away the fun, and then that's when you have to step out, because it's not going to be the same if you're worrying about that type of stuff. You need to do whatever you want, and still work on it, but you need to be happy in what you're doing. Like I've been saying 8 million times, but
yeah,
it's really important. I feel like super important just to be having fun what you're doing, or it's not going to work out. You're not going to view it as a good thing in your life. You're going to view it as a bad thing, or like a failed type of deal. When you didn't fail, you just didn't approach it correctly with like the right mindset, I think. So essentially, whenever I have a process, so whenever someone comes into my DMs and they're acting crazy and I can understand that they're angry, depending on whether or not I answer back and how angry they are, I will have to hide everything that I have. So I'll hide my story on Instagram from them. I'll have to go to my Twitter and check and make sure they're not following me because it's public. And then I'll have to go to my OnlyFans, and if they have their IP, which means they've signed up already, I can block them, and it's no problem. And I've done that before. But if I don't do that, if for whatever reason I can't catch them doing that, I have to be very careful about like who I'm accepting online, like friend request wise, because these people will literally look at my stuff and then try any way to blackmail me. I've had people who have bought my OnlyFans, so paid the money to see it, given me money, literally just to message me and say, I have found all your family on Facebook, I'm gonna blackmail you. Luckily I was able to talk myself get out of it. There are revenge porn laws in Indiana, so I had to do a lot of research about that. And basically what a lot of girls do is they put a disclaimer in their bio that says, if you copy any of this, this is all mine, I've copyrighted it. It's called copyright manslaughter or something along those lines, where basically anything that you create, as long as another third party's not involved, it's yours, so you get to keep it. So I don't have that disclaimer on my page, but I have it on some of my posts just so that it's there for legal reasons. I'm not necessarily worried about anyone trying to blackmail me anymore, because obviously I've been through that, I've done those steps, and if my family were to find out, it's not that big of a deal because they're more aware of what I do now, but at that point, it was a big deal. So for someone to come into my DMs and be like, I'm literally going to ruin your life, I'm going to like find your work, I'm going to do all this stuff, that was scary. So I had to figure that out right away to stop that from happening, and that's why I say safety is so important. Do not be putting your last name out there. Do not be giving these people any ammunition to attack you, because they will do it if they're mad enough at you. Definitely. So, but since I've done that, that's never happened again. So obviously it works, and that's why I'm such like a safety advocate about shit. Yeah.
Okay. So something that I sort of am thinking about is how, and this sort of I guess ties into the current perspective on sex workers. But do you ever think about what, your children, like if they ever found it, what they might think, how you have to have that conversation? Because obviously it's important to try to get people to be a little more neutral about, but that's a little bit different.
What I do. Yeah.
Like
it's your kids. Kids. To be honest, I hadn't really thought about it a lot. I don't know if I'd ever even have kids, so that would just I don't want to say solve the problem, because I think it's something that society has to work on itself and just get to a point where I'm pretty confident though in like 20 years, like say I do have a kid in 20 years, by that point the image of sex work will have changed a lot. Like a lot can happen in even like 5-10 years, and seeing how much sex work has grown in like the past 3 to 4 years is crazy. So I think by that point it will be less of like a problem. I also think it's something that people just say to like try to bring sex workers down. I don't think in 20 years, 10 years, someone is going to specifically still have a vendetta against me and look up my name and be like, oh, she has porn. Or, OnlyFans might not even be a thing. Like that, the internet is forever, but you have to remember there's so many other people in the world. Not everyone is like focused on you. And if you are, cool, you're my fan, like awesome. I'm just gonna take it to heart that you're so obsessed with me after 10 years that you're gonna find this and show it to my children. But even if my children were to find it one day, it's as simple as explaining it to them, what it is, your perspective on it. I mean, they're your kids, so you should be able to enlighten them on this. if they don't agree, or if other factors, external factors, are making them not agree with you, that's fine. If you guys don't want to agree with it, I'm still your mom though. At that point, you can't really do anything about it. But I don't think that it should be something that's embarrassing for them. I'm sure other kids would try and embarrass them because that's just the world that we live in, unfortunately. But like I said, I would hope that the sex industry would reach a point where, yeah, some people might give you shit, but it's a lot different scene than it was back then. So definitely.
Yeah, and I think you're totally right. Like, I think that hopefully, in 10, 20 years that there is a different perspective on it. What do you think it would take to start to get that change?
There.
Yeah.
I kind of think it's already in motion, but like the pandemic, like I said earlier, really set stuff in motion for creators being able to be in charge of their own content, because you used to have like a middleman to do this. You don't need like Pornhub or like X videos or like another site. You can have it all for your own. So that I think is going to help a lot. And then even just this is kind of like off and left wall or whatever, on a tangent or something. But I think the EDM community also has helped a lot, because that's kind of where like BDSM, like clothing and stuff kind of came from, and being like literally almost like naked at like raves or festivals or concerts. I've always loved that idea though, so I think that's kind of like fit in with the whole like scheme of being a sex worker for me. But that also has like helped, because the more that like festivals and EDM become mainstream, I think that is helping people realize like, oh, she can like wear whatever she wants. I'm not going to touch her, I'm not going to bother her, but I can still like appreciate that art form that she's putting out there, or that statement that she's saying with that outfit or her body. Like, that is so cool that you can say something with your body. You don't even need anything on it. You can be like, this is me, this is my statement with literally my body. So that definitely, hopefully that continues like an upward trajectory. Besides those two though, I think probably people our age coming into power, or even someone who's like 30 now, maybe a little bit older than us, someone like that with that idea and mindset would help a lot too.
So then, do you think it's really just like a generational thing? Mm-hmm. Do you think that people just...
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, like, do you think that, is it because our generation is a little more accepting of alternative pathways in life? Like, we don't, generally speaking, I'm not trying to classify everybody,
right,
but it seems like more people are attuned to not doing what everybody's always been told they have to do.
Before, yeah.
And people, in older generations are really dope and have done cool things. But, so, how do you think that happens, though? Like, is that conversations? Is that just us being aware of more, like, with the internet being able to see more, talk to more people? Question.
I think it does happen with conversations, which kind of like stretches back to where I was talking about, like, if someone's mad at me or like cussing at me, I'll still say my piece and then go, because that might help them later on down the line. I think it's stuff like that, definitely. Not so much maybe like arguing with people, but being like, hey, this is why I see it, this is like my idea behind it, the ideology of it, and this is like why it makes sense. Or even just continuing to do like whatever the hell I want. Like, I think by ignoring people who don't like it and continuing to do whatever I want and put that out there and say, even if you don't like it, I'm still going to do it because it's not hurting anyone. People like that, I think, are going to help move it forward as well. By not letting outside or like external factors kind of affect your day-to-day life.
Yeah, and I guess that, like, at least in my opinion, that's kind of why a lot of people are the way that they are now, is because we're starting to not let... I think a lot of people do let a lot of external factors affect them, but I think in a lot of ways too, we've been really great at like realizing that people aren't so different from other people,
right,
and that like while we are all extraordinarily unique, we're all like human.
Yeah. Stay true to yourself, basically. Yeah.
And so I guess maybe would you agree that just by having that mentality and trying to like help place those seeds?
Yeah, definitely. Even with like, I think it kind of goes hand in hand with like the racism that we're trying to fight in America too. It's not to say that they're the same at all, but it's both something that's like taboo that like is being worked on, that everyone knows is there, but no one quite wants to like dig in because it is such a fucking problem. So there, I see like a lot of like similarities between those two, just between like the hate that people have for these two things and what needs to happen to, like help solve that problem. So, yeah.
Dope. So you said that you didn't really ever have a negative perspective on sex workers, but has your perspective changed since you started doing it? So whatever your initial one was, not that it was negative or positive, but like has it morphed?
If anything, it got better because when I was younger, there were like a handful of people that I knew did this. Obviously, when I was like in fifth grade, I wasn't looking up the people that did this, but as I got older, like 13, 14, 15, 16, yeah, I was like following people that did this type of stuff. Maybe not on the level that people are doing it on now, or they weren't as open about it, but they were still like sexy pictures and like that was their brand. And I was like, oh my God, she's so pretty. Like, I want to like do stuff like that one day. So if anything, it just got more positive because more people started to do what I saw these girls doing. And back then it was only like celebrities or models or like really big, like established people could do it. And now anyone can start an OnlyFans. Like it could be like an average Joe on the street and they have an OnlyFans and it could be popping and you wouldn't even know about it. Like that, I think is what I find the beauty in it and how it's grown over the years is I found a lot more people.
So how has social media influenced your work?
So coming from Instagram, which recently had a change of terms of service, which basically like I cannot work on Instagram anymore. It's more so my personality than anything, because you cannot post any like explicit. You cannot. They basically caught on to what people were doing. You cannot solicit any type of like sexual interaction. So if you even like mention OnlyFans, it's gone. Like your account is going to get deleted. Like they have deleted very many large accounts, like millions of followers, like these girls that I had been following forever have had their accounts for years gone just because they mentioned OnlyFans. So don't do that. If you're on there now, just FYI, I think everyone's caught on by now. So that led me to go to Twitter, which is a lot more open. You can post whatever you want on there. Literally you can have like your titties out, whatever you want. So that was very appealing to me because I could finally post whatever I want and not have to freaking censor it. So when I went over there, the thing that surprised me though was the community that I found. Like there are a lot of both men and women on there who are in like the same boat I am, who think the same way that I do, who maybe think a little bit differently and can enlighten me on certain things and vice versa. So going over there and being able to post whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want, finally, and B, being able to see other people do that and then talk to them about that and kind of like bounce ideas off of one another, that was also changing. And that just happened to me within like the last 2 months, maybe a month or so. So seeing that, I think is a very powerful tool. So anyone who wants to get into this, even just like marketing in general, like go on Instagram and Twitter and just like watch what people do, watch how these brands post. Or even like influencers. I don't consider myself an influencer at all, but even like the people who do, who are like larger than me, that watch what they do and how they interact with their audience, because that's going to teach you a lot and like teach you your own style to interact with them. I think everyone has their own style and that's what you need to find. So and Reddit too. Reddit is also like amazing. There are so many like nice people on there. And I think because it is Reddit has this idea of, you can post whatever you want because it's a little more anonymous than say like an Instagram or a Twitter. So people just will be saying whatever the hell they want on there. Sometimes it's not always great. A lot of the times though it is. And like really good ideas come out of there. Especially from like all the different subreddits that you can find. I mean, it's like an amazing tool to find stuff on there and like promote yourself. And again, just have fun. There's definitely a lot of fun in it too, and you should find that, but it's amazing just what social media can do for you in general and like get your name out there. So I just wanted to touch on that because I think if you're starting in OnlyFans or like anything, go to Twitter or Reddit and then probably Instagram last, but Instagram has some great tools also. So
cool.
Just my 2 cents.
Very cool. Okay, so I guess what are your next steps with this? Like how do you want to progress this?
I have been stepping up my content game. So what I've always posted a lot. Like that's the one thing that everyone always says. They're like, "Wow, you actually like post very consistently and you are like giving the people what they need for their money." I think a lot of girls sign up and think it's going to be easy and then they stop doing it and the guys are like, "Well, what happened? Like where did you go? We paid for this." So I never wanted someone to be in that situation. So I'm always very consistent about it, and I love when people will tell me about it, just so I know that I'm doing something right by you guys. As far as like taking that into the future though, stepping up my content game has definitely helped a lot. I can already see where it's going to, like the positive impact that it's had just by like getting a nice camera, or like having someone help you shoot, or like investing in like your own clothing, or like makeup brands, or like stuff like that. I just have more time to like sit down and plan now. I think people don't think that like taking pictures takes a lot, but it does. Like getting that perfect shot, getting that perfect video, like thinking of the ideas, writing them down, like finding the time to set everything up and get yourself ready. Like it's a lot more work, but it's also, if it's fun, it'll be fine. Like it's still something that you enjoy. So I'm definitely kind of teetering more towards that work orientated lifestyle of where I need to have like a plan every day and I need to write it down, and like this is what I'm doing these days, and like this is the content I'm like circling back to between all my platforms. So I'm just trying to build right now, I guess. And then as far as that though, I don't really have any specific plans. Just I want to build and see what I can come up with creatively, like from my own mind. And I don't know, maybe in the future I would collaborate with someone. If I'm comfortable with it, I would love to like be open to that. But right now I'm just not. I'm not there. But yeah, I think that's where it's kind of open ended right now, but
Cool.
I have a direction.
Yeah.
So.
I feel like I feel like some of the questions that I asked made the sequence like out of order. There are questions I want to go to that are like, it's not perfectly linear. Like it's gonna be touching on things in the past, and that's
okay.
just like boyfriends, and if you
Mm-hmm.
that whole thing. But if you think that for the sake, especially because you're gonna be presented, and if you'd like it, we can like have an ending note. What are you kind of thinking? Like, do you want to explore that topic?
We can, whatever you think, whatever.
Okay, yeah,
if you think you need a little more, okay.
I mean, I think that we're gonna even if 10 minutes or an hour and a half, it'll be solid.
So what I have seen from my experience is that if you have a boyfriend, it definitely does change how people are going to perceive you. I don't know specifically if it changes your money. I would assume that it does, but I know that a lot of girls try to not mention like their external relationships, whether or not that means because they just want to keep work, which is how I view it. Like I just want to keep my work. If I'm seeing someone that has nothing to do with my work, like don't let that, I guess I want to say, interrupt the fantasy of it. I think a lot of guys, once they find out you have a boyfriend, that ruins it for them and they don't want to continue there, which is fine. It's your money, spend it however you want. But I just wish people wouldn't let that affect it, because it's still the same content. You're still putting in the same work to it. If someone is off on the sidelines enjoying it, that's their thing. I'm putting this content for you here now for you to enjoy, so don't worry about what's going on behind the scenes later on. Don't let that ruin your image of it, your fantasy of it, your joy in it. So I see why a lot of girls will hide if they have a boyfriend. I just don't want to be in the situation where someone's like, well, you're hiding them, or you're hiding your boyfriend. Like I still want to be open with it. I just try not to bring it up, which is what I think a lot of girls do, just because for your work, it's not about your boyfriend, it's about you and what you're creating. It shouldn't matter if you have someone on the side, and I think a lot of, maybe it kind of goes into delusions that people have of, oh, if I like sub to this OnlyFans, maybe she'll date me, or like maybe she'll talk to me. Like, yes, I will talk to you. Date you, probably not. But don't go into it with that idea in mind, then, because that's not what this is about. Like, it's not about dating. It's not Tinder. It's not. I think people get that confused a lot. It's not for that type of consumption. It's for something completely different. So I see why a lot of girls don't want to mention boyfriends, but it's kind of like a tricky subject. I think later on in the future, when more people have done this, there will be kind of like I don't want to say guidebook, but like something easier to follow, because I think a lot of people just don't know what to do when that topic comes up. Depending on who it is, I've had like a lot of guys say, oh, I would like never date you because you do this. And I'm like, that's fine. Would I date you? The question can be thrown the other way. For me personally, I think it's more fun to be in a relationship and have this going, because then you guys, as long as they're comfortable, then you guys can create stuff together, and I think that's really fun. I've been having fun doing that. I think it just depends on the person. I would never I'd say don't date someone who's not comfortable with this, because they're never going to be, and it's just going to cause problems in the future. But I have come across that. I've seen other people come across it. It becomes a problem. So stop it before you see it becoming a problem. If you see it going that way in your current relationship, you'll either have to find a new job or find a new partner. But I would say don't give something like this up just because someone else doesn't agree with it. Or,
Do you ever get discouraged?
oh yeah, definitely. All the time. All the time. Like that is another big thing too. Like seeing someone with like 2,000 like OnlyFans subscribers and you're sitting at like 150, like you're like, damn, like I could really, if anything though, it makes me want to like work even harder and grind even harder and like make my content something that's worthy of like 2,000 people following it or something like that. But it can get discouraging seeing all that, and I think a lot of the times people do like the mentality of fake it till you make it, which I think can be good and bad. It has its like pros and cons, but for like a pro of it, it just helps you realize that like I can do this. I can be whatever I want to be. I can build this up into what I want it. I'm gonna have to work it for it, but I can do it, and I will do it if I want to. The cons of that though, thinking that way, I think, is you can get like caught up in it and wrapped up in it and like wrapped up in the numbers and everything and like lose why you started to begin with. So I would say just try, if you're feeling discouraged, just try to like unplug, unwind for a little bit. Like don't look at other people's content or what they're doing. Like focus on yourself, and if you can't do that, then just like take a break from it. I think it's important to take breaks in the process of creating. Like you can't be putting out content every single day or every other day for a month. Like you're gonna have to take a week off, or even just like a weekend or something. That's another thing though that a lot of girls will struggle with, specifically on OnlyFans, is if you're not posting something every single day, multiple times a day, like people will leave. Even for like a sub price of $3, like it's crazy amounts of like stuff that girls will put content out, like thousands of like photos and videos will be on their OnlyFans, and it'll be for $3. And if you're not posting something every day, you'll lose like 100 people. Like it's crazy how much people want content now every single moment of the day. And to feel that pressure to try and create that can be really draining and like make you want to quit. And that's how I felt probably when I started getting like a lot more serious and like started making my money on here. That's how I felt, because I didn't want this to go away, and I was very worried about it and like becoming, not that I'm super relevant to begin with, but irrelevant in the sense where I couldn't continue this. That is mentally draining and like makes me want to quit. So I just have to ground myself when I think of that, and take a step back from it and kind of just realize like other people feel like this too. It's okay, you know, like you're doing fine, I think is what I tell myself. Like you're doing fine, you're doing what you need to do, you're reaching your goals. Like it took me like 2 years to get my Instagram to where it is today, and it's nothing compared to other people. Like the blow ups that they had, the viral that they went. So yeah, you definitely have to keep that in mind, I think. So moving out was like the like starter of this all. Like if I was still
living at your parents' house.
Yes, yeah. If I sorry, should have clarified that. If I was still at home and like wanted to do this full time, it would not have happened, because I would not have like the space to film and just like the quiet and just like to know that I could film peacefully. So that's a big thing too. It was like you need your own space, whether it be just like a room that you dedicate this to or like a specific spot in a room, but you need somewhere to like be creative and like know that no one's gonna bother you, no one's listening in on you, no one's like standing over your shoulder. Because for me, like I can't create stuff when someone's like right there watching. Like it makes me very nervous.
Yeah.
So, which is like why I love doing OnlyFans, because it's just me and like I can do whatever I want. Basically, I'm in charge of it all. There's no one else there. So
yeah, I want to
that's
bring attention
a very big thing.
Just to the fact of like even, you know, us doing this podcast and like all these different sounds, like it is a desire of mine to all, like I totally understand, and I feel like taking that plunge
to
like,
do it, because that's a lot of money is to pay for your own house and like move out. So I was like, I need to make sure I can do this before like I go and like try and move out, because at that time I had a part-time job that was not gonna pay. Yes, I have a lot of savings, which is amazing. I'm so grateful for OnlyFans for like having this money at this age, and like being comfortable, and like when the pandemic rolled around, I like wasn't worried about losing my job or anything, but still like that it was very important to get out and like be on my own and have my own space. I would not be doing what I'm doing now if it weren't for that. I'd still be working at like the bank. I'd have some other job.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, that's not to say though that I guess like people can still do it. It just
it's harder. Yeah. I did it for like a year and a half. Damn near 2, but like the hurdles are hard, especially when people like don't get what you're doing. They're like, well, why are you doing that? Like I don't get it. I don't get your art. And I'm like, just you'll see it.
It's
just
like
let me create.
Artist, like like you'll get my art cue. Like here it is if you want to purchase it. It is really cool to hear you though talk so much about how you do consider it such an art form, and how like that might even be part of the problem, that people view sex work as just, you know, people who quote unquote maybe can't do anything else, or this is all
like horny people.
Exactly.
And they're just like incels, and I'm like, these are like real people. They're not like incels or whatever you want to say about them. Like this is just a human desire, and I just like took it from an art perspective and like am throwing art into it, but and fun too, a lot of fun, but it's still like a human desire. Like you, your mom, like your dad, your grandpa, your grandma, everyone in your family, your siblings, they all have like a sexual desire, and just because you have it doesn't mean it's bad. I think a lot of people think that.
I also think that it could maybe just be like historically speaking where like sex work came from. It was
definitely.
And so I think that like now it's cool that people can claim it in a different way to hopefully first of all bring attention to the history and be like, these people who were, you know, working in the sex workers industry, like they were in charge. They at the end of the day are the ones who are, you know, performing, they're receiving the payment. It is their work. They are like the boss. But now people are starting to open up to the idea of like, okay, like, you know, this really isn't, it had a negative, you know, perspective, but now it's lessening, and
it's
I think
a lot,
that's just so good.
It's a lot more open, and definitely, I mean, obviously I'm not gonna, like, you used to die for being a prostitute.
Literally,
like, you used to be, like, people would chase you and, like, try to kill you, or, like, put you in jail, or, like, cause any type of harm to you, and now the fact that we live in a society where you can do this, and it's legal, and, like, a website, I think that was huge, too. Like, this OnlyFans was one of the first, besides Reddit, first sites to be like, hey, we welcome you on this platform, because Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, any of those sites are like changing it because they don't want these type of people on there. They want it to be family friendly.
So there still is that group of people who are trying to, but at the end of the day, like you said, like you're not hurting anybody, you're not hurting yourself. If you're setting boundaries, then it's you know.
It's a lot more ethical too than like other porn, because you don't know where that porn came from.
Exactly.
Like, you have no idea who created this, if they're comfortable, are they acting, did they get adequately paid, is it safe, did they get tested, are they using condoms, like are the toys safe, like just crazy shit that I've heard like in the industry about like sex toys, and like I did research on how they're made, and like a lot of them have like harmful chemicals in them, and like people don't know and buy them, and you should only buy from like literally 3 different brands, because all these other brands can be putting whatever the hell they want in your sex toys, and then you're putting that in you. So in a way, it's like you're almost like feeding yourself something bad, or like you're injecting something bad in your body, and you don't even know. And they don't tell you, and they don't feel like they have to tell you. Yeah, because it's sex work and it's taboo. Yeah, I was like blown away. I had no idea. Like some of them aren't even like FDA approved. It was scary. Yeah. I was like, oh my god, like I need to go check my sex toys. Like make sure they're not killing me or something. No, like seriously. It's crazy that they would put people's life in danger just because it's such a taboo topic and no one wants to talk about it.
Yeah, so. It's literally healthier to have conversations like this
about it. Yeah,
it's not a bad thing.
No.
People it can be so easy just to like be told this is bad. You know, don't talk about it, don't think about it. And it takes somebody being like, well, why is it bad?
Right, exactly.
And so it's just really cool.
Breaking down that barrier.
Totally breaking the barrier.
I'm excited to be like a part of that, and because I never thought I would be doing any of this shit. So this is kind of crazy. Yeah. But
so have you ever judged anybody for a request that they might want to see you perform, or I mean, obviously no kink shaming.
Right,
but
exactly. So I think a lot of times I never judge anyone based on what they want. Like I'll either tell you I can or I cannot do it. But there have been times where I have just thought it's funny how someone like approached me asking me for it. Either like they're really rude or they're just very like I get a lot of guys who are like really obnoxious and like who I guess I almost feel like they're trying to prove something to me because they know that I'm this OnlyFans girl. And I think they think that I have a lot of like sex with random different men. I don't. Props to you if you do. If that's how you run it, I literally don't care. But that's just not how I do it. So I like to just like poke fun at that sometimes, and I do have like stories on there. Some of them are like people who are actually angry and like are really angry at me, but some of them are just kind of like funny and like I'll poke fun at that. I think that's part of like the industry too, is just like realizing that there's like fun in it and some of it's funny and like it doesn't always have to be 100% serious and stuff. But I don't want anyone to ever feel like I'm like laughing at it or like um being mean about it. That being said though, there are a lot, surprisingly a lot of kinks where men like when you're mean to them, specifically men. So that's another thing too, like I don't want people to get confused about is like some people do like that and that's what they're into and that's what they want, and like if that is what you want and you specifically ask me to be mean, I will be mean. I try not to be super mean. I don't really like being mean, but like I get it. Like I get if that's what you're paying me for, I will do it for you. So I just wanted to clarify that and say I think a lot of girls also feel that way sometimes too. Like it's just funny to giggle at stuff, but it's not, it's all in good fun. It's not like anyone is kink shaming you because I know I'm probably into some weird shit compared to other people. So
Yeah.
just throwing that out there.
Nice. Well, this was good. Thank you so much for coming on, Maddie. This was a really
welcome.
good time.
Thank you for having me.
All of Maddie's stuff. Actually, I'm not going to say that. It'll just be in the description. I don't think that I'll, or I don't know how we'll. I don't know.
Link below. Link below. OnlyFans link below. I'm just kidding.
No, this is really good. So thank you for just like the vulnerability and sort of the advice. Hopefully
I'm happy to share anything. I hopefully like if someone else wants to start an OnlyFans, whether you be male or female, and you see this, hopefully it helps you a little bit. My DMs are always open, but I just know that when I was starting this, like there was nobody talking about OnlyFans. Like no one had like a guide to, not that this was even that, but just like general information on like what to expect, what's going to be thrown at you type of thing. So I'm glad to like contribute to the conversation in that sense. So yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on.
Woohoo! That was fun. That was so fun.